long overdue, long awaited. Our tire rods on my 99 Mazda Protege. We're gonna start off with one side and see how much of a battle it is. We have our car jacked up. I want to pop off the hub cap. Man, that thing is dirty. And I just popped the wheel off. Already eyeing it as my chair. Alrighty. Now we get access to the patient. Stuff on here, that's the PB blaster. I've learned that whenever I do any jobs on her, I try to soak her through with some PB blaster a few days prior. Helps take out a lot of the necessary fight. Poor tire rods, the outer tire rods, which, to be fair, they've been torn already for years. Now they're finally getting the attention they deserve. Yeah, if you can, try to get yourself one of these. It's a magnetic dish. All your parts stay in there, and you can just clip around anything. Makes life a lot easier. I'm gonna start by getting the tire rod ready. And the tire rod, you're going to have a cotter pin holding in the castle nut all the way at the bottom. Alright, one of the two ends on the cotter pin totally just sheared off given the first opportunity. Second guy is still holding in there. All right, cotter pin out. That's a little rusty guy. Now we can get at the castle nut. Castle nut shouldn't be anything too horrible. Cotter pin we're gonna be replacing. We don't want to be reusing that. All right, looks like 17 mil. We have a, there's our castle nut. I think you can see why it's called a castle nut. It literally looks like a castle, especially if you play chess, you know what I'm talking about. That also goes in our magnetic tray. Last thing I want to do is be losing any bolts or nuts today. All right, now this is an infamous hard part. You should be able to just hit the knuckle on this little part that points out, and then it should just pop out. Yeah, as you see, that doesn't work. I'm not even going to go too much harder on it because I know there's no potential there. I got the proper tool for the job. It's going to be a ball joint separator. I've been enjoying working with Aries. They have specialty tools that will not break the bank, and it's just going to save you a lot of nerves and headache. So let's see how this little guy works. I want it to be squeezing here, because what's going to happen is when I screw down on this, you see this nut? When I tighten this nut, it's going to make it close in, contract, and it should just pop it out with mechanical force. All right, getting this guy in here can be a little tedious. Again, yes, it will go into the rubber part, but mine is already shredded and deflated, so I really have no pity for it. What I'm gonna do is I separated the top part of the jaw from the bottom. I'm gonna get a mallet and just give it a few taps in. There we go. Now that we have the top jaw in there, I'm gonna need to go to the lower marker on this. Just like that. Now we're almost at the sweet part. We get this guy in here. Gonna bring him in. We get a socket. This guy runs a 13/16 socket. And all we're gonna do is tighten here. Is gonna press down, push up here, and pop this bugger out. I've been getting a little spoiled. I like to use my heavy duty brushless impactor, the Dewalt. If it fits, that's the only thing. It's kind of big. And here we go. And here we go. We're gonna be tightening just like that. That's so easy. I think you can hear my smile. You know how many times that's a battle with tire rods? And the headache that it gave me is beyond ridiculous. Now, I'm gonna actually put them back in here because I want to see if I can just break this. Generally, I want to keep actually the castle nut on here before we break it free. It may not seem like it, but there's going to be 2 nuts here. So this nut is separate from the outer tie rod. This is like a locking nut that goes in place. So a good thing to do, and that's why I have the Sharpie, is it just mark. This is going to be for when we put on a new tie rod that we can get it approximately to the same place. So the steering will be more or less straight. Generally, as a set of rules, you always want to do a tire alignment afterwards. I'll be honest, on a couple cars I've gotten away by just marking it and getting the new tire rod into where the mark left off, that the steering was not affected, or affected such a minute amount that it did not really affect the ride quality in any way. So the castle nut is a 19 mil that we took off, and here we're going to want a 21 millimeter, which I don't have, so let's do a run to AutoZone. All right, so we're going to be trying to separate this guy from this guy. I know it looks like one piece, but it's actually completely separate. All right, so just remember, you may be tempted to go this way. Don't. We're going this way. Once the brake's free, we don't want to be unscrewing it crazy far. We're just going to back it off a little bit. Then we take off our castle nut. Now we take this guy out. That's cute. It was really ready to give up. It just came off. All right, so the tie rod should not be shredded like this. This is where you need to have your grease. This thing, I want to give it an award because it survived so long that I'm genuinely amazed. Mazda, kudos. You done did a great job. And once we have that off, that lock nut, because the lock nut just presses up to the outer tie rod, keeps it in position. We can just unscrew this guy. Now, even though we marked it, right? Another way you could tell, worst case if you didn't, you could tell where it changes color. So you could tell by where the thread that was inside the tire rod, the one that was right underneath the nut, and you know, you could just see by the actual threading on the inner tire rod. Just want to clean this up for the next tire rod that goes on there. And there we go, old tire rod out. I always like when I get a new part compared to the old part. I get a new castle nut so we don't have to reuse it. Generally, I want to make sure it matches up. I mean, clearly you can see that this looks a lot better. It's whole. Furthermore, I want to see that it takes up the same distance. My new one, what I like, it's a little bit beefier. So it looks a little more heavy duty. She is a lesson car. She's going to live a hard knock life. And what I also like, on the back of it, you see how the old one, the OEM one, just has a flat back. Here, you also get a nipple that you can thread in. That came in the bag. And a new cotter pin, because you remember what condition our old cotter pin was in, right? Just past the point of revival. And you even get a new lock nut. All we're going to do here is we're just going to prepare the tire rod. Here, I found that quickly, a 5/16 fits on the nipple. We're not trying to murder this, we're just trying to get it snug, just hand tight. We want it snug in there. But if I apply too much torque, it starts to rotate anyway, which I don't need. All right, so now that guy's in. And we're going to just thread him on like such. And all we're going to do is just thread him on like such. Try to make sure also your inner tire rod does not rotate, because it could rotate. We want it facing in the same position. I just like to have everything stay the same as much as. All right, now I got it nice and tight up there. I try to line everything up to make sure the lock nut didn't separate out. Take off my castle. Boom. Just played around with it a little bit. We're going to apply the castle nut out on the bottom of it. Right here you can see a squared piece. I'm going to put a wrench on this, and this way I can lock him in. So these aftermarket ones, it's 23 mil on the outside. And I just want to lock it down. Make sure that lock nut really steps in and locks in my tire rod. Now, I'm just going to tighten up my castle nut. Don't want to kill it. Don't want to squeeze this too much. Just want to make sure that on my castle nut, the teeth line up, that I'm going to have a hole on the tie rod and I can get my cotter pin through it. For example, if we just look at the old one, you see how we have those holes? I want to make sure that when I throw on the new tie rod,